So we are on. How are you, everyone? I'm very glad that you joined this last session. I hope it will be exciting with lots of questions and discussions. Let's start. We are talking about the flow issue since we left off the last week. We were talking about the flow issue. And Abby mentioned that it felt different, although she didn't read all the submissions, she just read the summaries of the submissions, and she felt already different from structure. So Abby, tell us, how did it feel different from structure?
Reading the structure submissions and kind of the table of contents in the forward, it almost felt like I was reading an academic journal. It felt the tone shift was very critical and very almost like critical analyses, I guess. So very intellectual, more than we'd been used to. And then going back to flow, there was another poetry submission, and it was a lot more kind of like personal experience based, but not in like the critical way, but more in kind of the heart and soul kind of way, I guess is the only way I can put it, and the warm kind of breaking out kind of way again that we've been talking about throughout the past issues. And you all told me that it was kind of difficult to pick which submissions were going to go into which issue, which I also think is really interesting. And I'm so sad I missed last week because I would have loved to have heard how some of them would have fit into structure issue, and if some of them would have softened the structure issue and given more structure to the flow issue, and how that was determined, and at the end of the day, how those editorial decisions were made to put the ones into the one category, and if it was intentional or if everything just kind of took its own way and flowed and happened to be that way. So I don't want to go back too much to last week if we don't want to, if those things were all already addressed, but it was definitely something that was in the back of my mind, like how intentional was it and which submissions actually would have fit into structure, because I really couldn't tell, if I'm being honest. And I'll be interested to see if I can tell when I have both of them in my hands and actually read the whole submissions.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Would you like to answer it, Anna, Parvati, or Shabnam?
Maybe start with which ones could have fit into both and why.
Yeah.
Anna's laughing.
Yeah, Anna, something to say.
My contribution that was kind of shifting the issue. And
yes.
And I think it could have been in both, because there is,
Wait, yours was the one, sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Yours was the theater, correct? Is that the one we're talking about?
No, mine was the one that starts like on this festival.
Film
and then I'm touching issues about the dualism of body and mind. Like I'm talking about the documentary and the idea whether dance is something innately human.
Okay.
So I'm touching those topics, and I think maybe that's like the reason. For me, it could have been in both, but that's my reason. I think Jana's reasons are different. Is that I feel like the argumentative structure that I'm having is quite structured, and I feel like the rational way in which I approach the topic is quite structured. So I think it feels like for me it was a little bit written in a not very pro flow in a way, and then it ended up in flow, however, because it kind of, there is a flow to it, and the end of it I think opens up again into a flow, because I'm after the rational analysis I'm doing, like I kind of give myself to the flow. So I think I kind of touch on both ideas, or both modes, let's say. But that's my reason.
Jana.
Well, I think what Anna's piece did is like kind of criticized an idea of flow, like an idea, a preconceived imaginary way of thinking of flow. And it kind of disrupted this idea of flow by rationalizing the deconception, how people are seeing flow could be. So, like we were talking last time, that flow has a mindlessness aspect to it, like the mind faculties kind of like become less prominent when we are in a state of flow, which is kind of true. It's not like it's not true, but it's not the mindlessness that makes flow. I mean, yeah, she was just, in my opinion, she was like arguing for the entire being, like for mind, body, and for the whole thing. Like we go into a state of flow as a whole, like with our mind. We don't leave our mind elsewhere, and we go into a state of flow. And now, of course, it's not exactly what she's talking about. She's talking about something else, but it kind of felt like it also can feed into the flow question. And we end the issue. I mean, I think ended the issue with her piece, like kind of, okay, we were flowing in different ways. Now let's question how can we bring everything together.
Okay.
Kind of way. Yeah.
Okay. Were there contributions that you thought could have or would have, or maybe retrospectively should have? Maybe this is a question for like a year from now, I think would be really interesting. But do you think there were contributions in flow that could have softened structure, and contributions in structure that could have structured flow?
Actually, this was an approach that I was about to take at one point. I don't know why I didn't. Even Katya has two pieces, one piece in two. I mean, two pieces in one. The submission came like one for flow, one for structure, but it's one piece. And I thought many times actually of bringing them together in one issue instead of splitting them apart. But at the end, I don't know. I split them again. I took one, and I kept one in structure and one in flow. But they could have came together. Then I thought also. I mean, when I see them together, like next to each other, I feel like it's nice that the flow issue has its own tempo, and the structure has its own tempo. So mixing them up may require like working out a tempo.
Okay.
So this way they feel more like together. Like,
they kind of presented themselves kind of, and like
yeah.
I feel like the overall structure, or like the categorization that has come after the each issue was put together, like whether it is using I Ching or using the other conceptual notions that Jana came up with to put organize each issue within themselves. I think they gave some kind of structure to flow or flow to structure, I feel. And I think what you're suggesting, I feel like within many of the essays we see this happening, where the essays themselves, the texts themselves, are like there are several texts in the structure issue that argue for flow or point out structure and kind of make way for flow, or like there's something about using the rhythm, but like maybe even actually the text that I wrote about crossing the street, I think there was a lot of discussion about whether this could be in flow. But it was pointing about our structured way of thinking and moving. So it could actually arguably be in either even Ellen's piece about neurodivergence, and pointing out how there's lack of space for neurodivergence, and making an argument for more flow and ease in this kind of categorization within dance education or body, or body practices. I think so. There are texts that kind of demand that we lose these notions of structure and flow as being quite separate. But I think for the sake of perhaps reading through the essays gives that understanding that these are maybe some false binaries. And especially they are felt so much in the body. But I think it's easy. It's hard. It's easier to feel it while reading it and even stating it than putting something on print. And I think this is the question of a printed thing that necessarily needs some kind of organization. Like a printed book just simply can go in a linear, like only be turned in a linear manner. Of course, there are different ways to organize hold the book and turn it around and organize it, play with it. I think my internet is off. Could you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit, but we got what you said. Yeah, your traffic, like walking in traffic essay was actually the one that I was thinking of, that from my perspective would have fit for both from the very little like synopsis that I have. So I think it's really interesting that that's the one that you picked up on too. Are there any and then I'll go away from flow and structure and come to more like general questions, I think, but are there any contributions from the first 3 issues that jump out at you now that you're like, oh man, that would have been so great in structure or so great in flow?
I don't think so, but they could. I mean, they could, like, let's say flow and transcendence kind of reminds me of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is something in common. And I was questioning whether flow, actually, when we talk about flow, are we also transcending? This is a question that came from the previous issues. Is it the same state or are they different states? Is flow a way to reach transcendence or not necessarily? This is a question that I was playing with. As Gabriel also said last time, maybe these concepts are, one, they are overused, as Anna and Shabnam also argued that flow is overused, but I think also transcendence is overused. Maybe it would be interesting in the future to actually not break them down, because I don't like breaking things down, but maybe making like what Gabriel suggested, making more specific specializing, I mean, in talking about them in more detailed ways, like not in a general way. Because there are many types of transcendence and also many states of flow. I don't know if this would be useful, but it was something that crossed my mind. Like maybe because we are talking in general, that we don't have names, and we don't have like this. We are structuring flow and and transcendence when we do that, but I don't know if it would be useful if we can like talk about types of transcendence and types of flow. This is what came to mind most when I was working on the structure and flow. And the structure, to be honest, because I think this is the only theme between the 5, touch maybe as well, but structure mostly, that is not, the theme itself isn't a state of being. Like transcendence is a state of being. Flow is a state of being. Furor is a state of being. Like we are in a state of furor. Touch is not a state, but it's a sensation. But structure is a concept. This is why it came out, I think, so rational and so intellectual and so different in terms of language and style. Because when you say structure, the first thing you think about is arguments. I mean, you don't think in terms of how do I get into a state of structure? You think, how do I structure myself? So let's put charts and let's put documents and let's put boundaries and let's. So I think what makes it different is it's the only one so far that is not a state of being. So it's different. So nothing comes up from the previous issues that can fit like into the structure issue, because it's different. It's a different approach actually to thinking about dance.
Anna, you're unmuted.
Kind of now I have a question.
Yeah.
Great.
Because when I look at the topics as well and how you describe now the feeling towards those concepts as being often a state of being, for me, like most of those concepts, they are kind of in the same time both immaterial and material in a way. So I feel like that this kind of combines all of them somehow in a way in which like maybe also we might think about dance. But now I'm wondering, why are you choosing topics just, or like the theme is like one word? Have you ever considered to think about naming an issue or finding a topic that might be a concept that is not one, let's say, name or one?
Okay. So I will answer this one. I did allude to it in a previous session, but I will explain it better. So the idea came at the beginning, like how do we come up with a theme that we can structure the issue around. So we thought like we can approach a specific style of dance and not break it down, but look at it closely and see what is the essence of it, like what kind of to us at least the essence of this art form. What does it communicate to us deep down? I mean, what is the most striking element of it to us specifically, to me specifically? So this is how all of them came out. Like all of the themes were like extracted from me looking at a specific dance form and playing with it a little bit. So for example, like the first issue was based on the whirling dervishes practice. So we thought that transcending is the most powerful element. I mean, most people are seeking this experience because they want to transcend. For the Führer, obviously, it was what dance form was it? Yeah, flamenco, yes. And the Führer in it, like I don't think there is any other dance form that communicates that much fury in it. And I find that so striking and so powerful, how we channel our emotions into dance. So to answer your question, Anna, I think if I ever stop this process of coming up with a theme from an existing dance form, maybe, yes, the theme would stop being like one word. It could be more, or maybe if if a dance form or a dance practice or a movement practice came on and brought something that can be formulated into words, I won't mind it, of course. But it happened that each one of them, like for the third issue, it was contact, improv, touch. So it's the most the most outspoken element of the improv is the touch. How do we communicate through touch? How do we dance through touch? And how does touch affect our movement and our relationship and everything? For the fourth, it was I was returning to ballet, so it was ballet structure. Now, if I'm gonna think about it again, I don't know if I will come back with the same theme, but this was what came out to me at the time. Like, it's too structured, so much structured. And for the fifth, it was it wasn't a dance form; it was a movement practice, qigong. So the flow came from an Asian practice. Could any one of them have been towards? Maybe. I didn't think about it much. I mean, whether it's is a sentence or 2 words or 1 word, it just came out like this. But yeah, it's possible. It's possible to think, to start thinking differently about the themes. Maybe in the future, it is possible. If we continue working together, so we might like shape the way the themes come out, with time. So this is also an important aspect to it. Like, if we continue to work as a editorial board, of course we will shape how the themes will come out in the future.
Okay, then I have 2 more things I can just kind of add on to, 2 more questions that just come to mind through this all. Talking about concepts versus states of being, do you think it's easier or more inspiring, one or the other? Like, is it easier to work with concepts, or is it easier to work and create with states of being? Like, do you feel like you have a preference? Do you feel like one of them kind of shapes the identity of the magazine more than the other?
Addressed to me.
The answer it's to you as the creator, but it's to all of you now who have experience and worked on the editorial board, and maybe how that's going to influence how you think about the themes in the future.
Yeah, so I will throw it to the editors. Do you think how yeah, Parvathi?
I feel like states of being would offer a lot of diversity from just the way even like a different language offers diversity. Maybe even if any of these texts had been written in another language and were to be translated, maybe, or even if I think about structure in my languages, then I think it would offer me so many more layers of than just the word structure, no? So I think similarly, even states of being offers a very wide possibility of interpretation from readers all across the world, which a dance mag has. So I think that way, yeah. But I mean, this, yeah. This, so I feel like states of being, or even something like when you spoke about furor, I was thinking about the haka. And then I was thinking, maybe I think of it as a fury, like as something that's depicting fury. But of course, I'm not from this culture, and I don't see the symbolism. And I've seen videos of it where it's done in a wedding or in a parliament, and it then represents every time something else, a symbol of love and community, and sometimes another time it's something else. So yeah, I just even the way something can be interpreted and read and written about in terms of whether it's coming from a movement practice or state of being, offers a lot of diversity because of the diversity of perspectives in the world and languages and what the readership and the writership allows.
Anna, since you asked the question.
I think I have to think about it, because Abby's question was whether a concept or a state of being might be a better fit to talk about, or like as a topic for the dance book, right? Like
maybe not better fit, but if one resonates more, and maybe resonates more with the identity of the magazine, and maybe how it steers the identity of the magazine, maybe a little bit.
I think it's interesting that immediately I have like a reluctance to the word concept, and like kind of I'm in favor of the word state of being, but I don't understand why it's like that. Maybe because concept sounds so structured and so rational. Meanwhile, state of being sounds like something experiential that could be experienced by a lot of people. And the concept is something that you need to understand. That is something that kind of requires defining. And the state of being is open. But now that I break it down for myself, I feel like both can work. And I'm wondering whether, since as Fluxer and flow and structure, both are kind of combined. I think like same applies to concept and state of being, because a state of being might as well be a concept, a cultural concept. Sorry, now I lost myself, but I think that both have potentials, and I'm wondering whether there might be even a way to think about topics in that way, that it could be both at the same time, not deciding for.
Now, when you mentioned concept, actually, I remembered like writing a paper at one point about concepts, not about concepts, about how concepts are tools to structure the flow of humans across the globe, like how concepts were used to actually, in my mind, I may be totally wrong, maybe off base completely, but for me, like concepts sometimes can act as directional. Like when you say transculturalism is a concept, interculturalism is a concept. It's kind of, it's an imposed idea by a group of people who decided that actually the world wasn't mingling before they decided that they should mingle. Like as if they are saying that the world was already structured in a way, and now we are, the structure is being like interwoven. So that the concept, not all concepts, but some concepts, I think they come as an imposition to play with. They come into being, like also the concept of decolonization, it's a concept. Also, I think these concepts are there to make you think in a specific way. So the idea. So yeah, I am also reluctant to using concept, like pre-made concept specifically. Like if we come up with a concept that doesn't exist and we want to open it up to like investigation and see if something can come out of it, like maybe. But if the concept is already existing in a certain context, especially if it's an academic context, I am very reluctant to using it, because it's also disseminating something that I'm not necessarily subscribed to. Like I don't necessarily agree with whomever came up with this concept. But Anna, if you can give another example of concepts like different example of those that I've stated, like transculturalism, multiculturalism, interculturalism, decolonization. They are heavily politicized, I think, these concepts that I'm mentioning. But if you can mention another type of concept, maybe I can like see if it's something that I would change my mind.
I don't know. For me, okay, now that's gonna sound very cheesy and rational at the same time. For example, love can be a concept as well. I mean, it could be in terms of, it can be defined. It can, you know, like it's a label you put on something in order to describe some things, a relationship between two people or more. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Love is also
I think love is a state of being.
Both.
I don't know if you can think about any concept of a concept that isn't politicized. Like even love is politicized. Love is extremely politicized, especially right now.
Tell us more. How is love politicized right now?
I'm just thinking, especially of the LGBTQ plus debates going on in the US right now.
Okay.
And everywhere for that matter. I mean, where is it not a topic of discussion, at least in the Western world right now? It's crazy. Even in Germany, I think it's going to be very soon with the political climate that we're experiencing.
Yeah, but that doesn't deny that love exists. I mean, exists.
Oh no, of course not. No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, because you said the like concept of decolonization, for example, is politicized. And I'm thinking if there's any concept that isn't, which is also a really great springboard for any type of publication you want to put out. Like there's no, I think you're always going to kind of delve into that area.
Yeah, but I mean, decolonization, I think, is like, for instance, this specific concept is constructed. So it's not that it exists and it is politicized. Like the term exists and it is politicized.
Okay, I see.
It comes from a political, with a political motivation, with a political agenda, let's say.
Yeah.
So it's constructed. It's not organic. Let's call them organic.
Yeah. Okay.
I would state it just to like the way I see the difference between these two is that something like decolonization, that was the word, decolonization, or to decolonize oneself, whatever that means, or or interculturalism. I think these such concepts put that as a theme of the magazine, of an issue, would assume that the concept is true, that the concept is already legitimate, that this is actually in fact a fact, and that's then the starting point. But I think it reduces some of the debates. It could reduce some of the debates of, hey, let's go backwards and see that who's coming up with this, who's coining this, and why. Or is interculturalism just a way for maybe I don't know, like one government to say that, look how intercultural our policies are, and so I think this is where I feel like concept, like nothing against it, because I do write sometimes academic papers with even our academia relies on this, but I don't know how much space there is to problematize some of these things, or at least I think in the world of dance and body and movement, this is the spaciousness we can claim when we say, hey, nothing is a given, and we can go back to love, and then even in that find, is it love towards, like, is it maternal, is it romantic, is it sexual, is it like spiritual, it can be so vast, is it self, or is it for the planet, or is it just transcendental, or it can be so widely interpreted. So I think that's why concepts, or at least states of being, offer so much fluidity. But no, like it can. This is how I see. I'm thinking about concepts and what jumping off what Jana said.
I would like to add something to the discussion. Back to Jana's words. I really like how she found these themes. She never said concepts, I think. She found these themes from the material, the dance itself. For example, there is a concept that comes from flamenco, duende. Maybe you know it.
Yeah, duende.
So this is not something that we can understand without knowing flamenco and the culture. It's very specific and it's very alive. It's not something in our minds, but you even hear the music when you think about duende. So I really appreciate how you take these themes from not thinking, but kind of from material itself.
Thank you, Shabnam. I thank you for your intervention. Thanks.
So without splitting anything, do you already have themes in the pipeline?
No, I haven't prepared anything for the future issues, although there is an idea, yes. What was it? I forgot. I had mentioned it to someone at one point. Yes, I have. I have. But I will not say it now because I rather like we sit down the editorial board and we discuss how we want to move forward after these sessions and after the issues are come out. So maybe they won't. Maybe they will like it then. Maybe they won't. Maybe we will take a different. Also, in one of our earlier meeting last year, actually, a concept came out, and it got everyone excited. So maybe we'll work on a concept in this case, if everyone agrees. Anna, what was it? Do you remember? You don't remember? You and Gabriel and I think everyone like said this would make a very good issue. The copyright issue.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
The what issue?
We were talking about copywriting, and I was suggesting, yes, maybe this can come in, a story can come out in the structure issue, like around copywriting dance. I mean, what do you think about copywriting dance? And Anna and Gabriel, and I think most of the board decided that this is a huge topic that may be addressed by itself. This is something totally different from what was produced, but which, if everyone is on board, we can address. I think it's an interesting. It would be an interesting issue, although it's totally different from what we've been producing in terms of approach. But yeah.
Okay, what do you think has changed the most from transcendence to flow? It's a really general question. I like general questions because it gives you guys a lot of room to think about, just whatever comes to mind. If you think about the whole journey of, it's been a wild 5 years in everybody's personal lives, I think, politically, and the magazine, how it develops. So just the biggest changes, the good changes, the bad changes, things you expected, didn't expect.
I will turn this question to you, actually.
As an
external eye, like how do you feel the magazine has evolved from the transcendence to what you know so far about structure and flow?
I think in terms of how professional, I don't really like that word, but in terms of how professional it feels, I think holding the transcendence issue, it almost felt like I was holding and reading something that was somewhere in between like a zine and a magazine. And now it feels, and I'm really interested to see, I'm really excited to see like the new format, but now it feels like it's very like solidly found its identity as this like literary piece of this like work, and it's not a zine, and it's very solid in the community identity, and it's very solid in the democratic editorial identity, which I feel gives it its flair, which was maybe very experimental at the beginning, but now it's like, it feels like very much at its core. And I think that affects a lot how people read it. It doesn't read like a zine because it's a very individual project, and you can really feel that it's one artist. And like a normal mainstream magazine is very almost scientific in its format. And yeah, I don't know. The Dance Mag doesn't feel like that at all. It's very much like its own identity, but it's very much based on that creative collective. And since it has the art spin with dance, it's very much in a league of its own for me. And that developed very solidly over 5 issues. But I don't know how you guys see it.
I think it's finding its voice, like issue after issue, and I think it will keep on finding its voice and strengthening its voice. Like it had a voice with the issue 1, very strong and very distinct voice, but it wasn't sure of itself. Like it was hesitant still. Like, what am I saying? In which direction I want to go? How to move forward? How to say what I want to say? And yes, as you said, like it's evolving in a way that is, making its identity clearer by the issue. Let's call it that. And yes, having everyone on board for the editorial work made its voice like clearly out there. Like we are diverse, and this is what we want to talk about. It's our diversity coming together and celebrating what we have and what we have to offer. Like editorially and contribution-wise, contributors and the editorial board kind of brought this collective of voices that goes very, very nicely together. Anyone else has?
Yeah. Okay, then I have one more big question, I guess. And this is the question I said the very first session that I was going to bookend the workshops with. Mm-hmm. So what, and it goes to all of you as an editorial board, what were and what are now your aspirations for the magazine? Not the goals, but like the bigger aspirations. And how can your community help you get there? I think in terms of goals, I think in terms of like readership numbers, the bookstores that carry it, the sellers, the team. Maybe I saw that there was a new call for a graphic designer today, I think on Instagram, right? So those are like the smaller goals maybe of how to keep developing. But I mean, like the aspirations, talking about the soul and the identity of the magazine. Where do you want to go? Where did you want to go, and where do you want to go now? And how can we help you get there?
Okay, I will take this one. And if anyone has anything to add, please jump in. From the beginning, the aspiration was for this magazine to become a movement, like a collective movement. And one thing that we used in the first issue, we used a term that I later on deleted from the About section. We used inclusive, all-inclusive magazine, which is a part of the aspiration of it, like to be all-inclusive. But at the same time, it was clear that a magazine can never be all-inclusive. This is impossible on so many levels. Like the space doesn't allow for it. It's a material thing with a limited number of pages. It can be all-inclusive. So inclusive in terms of voices. we need to select. We don't have other options. Like we have a space that we need to limit us. And we also have standards in terms of language, so it can't be all inclusive. But I would love for it to become a movement outside the paper, like in real life and online and everywhere else, that bring as many possible voices into the conversation as possible. So I would love for it to also take other formats, to use the formats that are available and maybe create formats that are not yet still available to gather these voices. The magazine will be still the core. It will be still the core thing that holds everything together. It's the main vision, the essential element of it all. But I would like for it to become more than just the magazine. I would love for it to become a movement, a worldwide movement, like with chapters in different parts of the world. And I don't know, I would like for the movement to take its own life, like to become what it wants to become. Like the all-inclusive aspect is still part of what I wanted to do with this magazine. So I would love for it to become bigger and to take the shape that it wants to take in life, like, and online and everywhere else. So whoever wanna become part of this movement is welcome in any capacity, in any way they want, and in any way they want. I'm still figuring out the best way to go about it, but these get-togethers, these gatherings are like one element of my wish to make it bigger than just the paper, to actually come together and see each other and talk to each other and communicate like live this way, and in different ways. But yeah, this series was one of the ideas that I thought, how to make this more than just the paper.
Yeah, that sounds really nice and really interesting. I hope we can keep doing it.
Yeah, me too.
Anybody else? Shabnam, Katya, Parvathi, Anna. Where would you like to see us in 5 years? The Dance Mag, the community.
Yeah, I see what Jana was saying, going beyond the page, because now I feel it is very much niche. I just stumble upon it. Mm-hmm. And I think, the whole conception that is behind it is so deep that is just, it's a pity that it's just on page and niche.
Thank you, Katya. I would love to hear more from you in the future, maybe.
Yeah, I would be happy.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Abby.
No, go ahead.
I don't I feel like some great ideas have already been stated. One of the things, because I mentioned the language thing earlier, I feel like that's always something like a very doable direction to open up. That there are performers in every language and movers in every language, and even in the first meeting, when it was clear that movement and dance is not just for dancers, that anybody can dance, and therefore anybody can write about dance or feel dance and feel the body. So, and that language should not be a restriction. So right now this is an English language magazine, and I think that that's just a kind of a need-based thing, but still, even just to so one, to work more with maybe original texts that are in other languages, just to expand the access. And I think even some writing experiments, like there's like one of these Jhumpa Lahiri, a writer. She wrote she wrote a book in English, and then she wrote her own. She wrote a book in Italian. First of all, she learned Italian from scratch, and then wrote a novel in it, and then she translated it into English. She translated the Italian into English, and then separately she has written the English text, and they are both so different in feel and rhythm and style. So they are both the same text. They are both written by her, but one is her own translation from the Italian to English, and the other is in English. And I feel like these written experiments can be something interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Could you write the name of the author?
Yeah, it's Jhumpa Lahiri. I'll write it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a magazine on my coffee table actually right now, and there's one article, and one side is English and one side is Arabic, and they're right beside each other, so you can flip the whole time and read in both languages, and it's really interesting. I think it's a really interesting medium. Also takes away a lot of pages, but it's kind of an interesting way to not have your voice lost, I guess. But like what's lost, but it's different. It does come across in different ways. Is there any true way to translate? It's one of the questions that we always ask ourselves in literature studies, like how true is translation, and can you only really feel it? Kind of like in dance, can you like really only feel it when you're there? It's a totally different experience when you're there, which is why I think a dance mag has so much potential, because it can be one of those things that jumps off the page more than other magazines are capable of doing it, I guess. Or maybe in the same way, if you have a magazine that's kind of dedicated to a homemaker and there's recipes in it, and then all you have to do is cook the recipe, and then you have this medium that has the potential to really like call for action, I guess, which is why I love magazines so much. I'm such a magazine nerd. Yeah, so I think it's a really great aspiration. I think that we're well on our way doing it.
Yes. I just want to add one thing. Yeah, I do agree. We did have translation in the previous issues, many actually, from mainly French. Can't remember. We've done other translations. So it's very interesting. Experimenting with like writing and translating is a very interesting idea. However, the English, the choice of it being in English was on purpose. It wasn't for convenience only. And this is an argument like I had to make at the beginning of making the magazine, and I will make it again now. Like English is the language of the British and the American and the Australian and the Canadian, but it is also the language of globalization. So it's the language of the internet. So we can claim it. It's not that it's not imposed on me personally. I choose to speak in English because it is a tool that allows me to connect with as many people as possible from across the globe. So I love it. I love it as a tool. And I think when we write, also it's something that we don't standardize the writing. So for a British or an American, maybe you are an American reader, it might feel like it's not. I don't know if you can tell me. Does it feel like a clean English, like the text, or does it feel like
if I'm being
tongues?
No, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if I ever really thought about it. I mean, I would have to go back and read it to be able to answer that question, because that was never really a concern of mine, I think.
Yeah.
I think the way you read it is also kind of a way you feel it. And so for me, it was just always a part of it. The way the English is was always just kind of a reflection of the person who is writing it, and how you write is kind of a reflection of the experience you had. So, you know, the quality, I guess, if you want to put it in those terms, of the English, I don't think is really important.
Yeah, but it is important for me that it's not clean. I mean, it's not clean in a standard way. Like
Yeah.
you can feel in the background of the English, the tongue, where this person, I mean, the own language of the person and how they think. It's in the text as well. So it's not like we are not making the text look like a clean British or English or American person's talking. Like it's their own language, but it's in English.
Yeah, and I think you accomplished that. I think you did that well. I don't feel like I'm reading.
So I don't think English takes away from the diversity of. Of course, I don't mind playing with the original language of the people, of course, but I don't think that being in English that doesn't take away from its diversity. Like
Oh, no, that's not what I meant either. I'm talking about, there's a reason that we use duenda to, like, for example, right, that word stays in Spanish because there's no way to, like, emotionally grasp that content. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I agree with you 100% about the maybe necessity or the reason why we use English. I'm talking about there's just like a certain soul behind certain words that can't be translated.
Yes, can be translated. But I mean, I think the effort of translating them is also an effort of wanting to be together, like wanting to be together. Like, I appreciate people who try to communicate with you even if the tool isn't there. I love this connection, like when there is a barrier and people try to break it to reach each other. I love it. This is why I appreciate having English as a medium that is today able to connect many of us to each other. Like, I do appreciate that the magazine is in English. I think also this was like, I don't know if Parvati would agree with me on that. No.
Yeah, I know that way I do agree. You know, now that I've been learning German, I feel the difference between what English allows and what German allows. Just a different, or maybe it's my vocabulary and my current vocabulary levels in the two languages. But yeah, I'm quite aware that, firstly, I think the English language itself has a certain I don't know if it's like the number of, I think, adjectives. I think there are more adjectives in the English language, if I'm not wrong, than the German language somehow. And I think so. Just simply in terms of accessing different words, English offers this, and yes, just a specific history of the English language on the planet itself then allows that it is mutated in different ways in a very like unabashed way, that I can speak how I'm speaking, you can speak how you're speaking, and we can all have our intonations and new ways of speaking and still be understood and all be right.
Yeah.
Really friendly, really
Okay, I have two more questions to close out the round, and then I have to jump because my son is getting a little antsy. But two questions, and they're not vague, they're very solid questions. And it goes to all of you. If you had to write about one dance experience in your life, and you're not constrained by a topic or a theme or a state of being or a concept, just one dance experience that kind of is in your memory that you would want to write about, what would it be? And then the second question is, how has engaging with a dance mag or engaging in general with writing about dance changed or affected the way you dance? And how has dance kind of changed or affected the way you write? If at all. And those are the last two questions I'll throw to all four of you to end the session. And if anyone wants to start, please feel free. Everybody looks like they're thinking, so I don't want to call anybody out during the thinking process. Yeah, Katya.
I'm loading. It's like the wheel going. So.
You're buffering. Okay, I'll start and give you guys time to think. I can't say anything about the writing part, but if there's one I would definitely want to write about. I danced in a very small little dance studio, and my dance teacher, she studied dance, and then she wanted absolutely nothing to do with the professional dance world, and she came back to our very small hometown and opened a dance studio that was pretty explicitly counterculture to like the pre-professional dance team type dance studios and professional ballet studios.